Good evening and welcome to Behind the Headlines. My name is Timothy Nyangweso. Looking at Agenda 2026, it seems like all political parties have gone into the starting blocks, especially looking at the National Unity Platform vetting, but also the lingering entrepreneurship and youth leagues that are almost deciding the leadership within there. The biggest of them all is the decision of opposition to whether have twin presidential candidates or just have one. Can this happen if 2026 and 2021 and further on 2011 fail to bring a single candidate for the opposition? Can this consensus be there? Especially with PFF saying that they will line up behind the presidential candidate that has been put before by ANT. We also look at statements made by the Minister of Justice, especially on the state of elections come 2026. We look at that and ask ourselves, what will Uganda be between 2026 and 2031, both socially, politically, and economically? Let's put it to our guests in the studio to see what they'll be saying about this conversation. Our guests are, on my immediate left, Dr. Sarah Berete, the Executive Director for the Center for Constitutional Governance in this country, but also an election observer with us this evening. Good evening, Doctor, and it's good to have you.
Thank you, Timothy. Good evening, fellow panelists and viewers. I'm glad to be here.
And I know it is the same season of constitutionalism, so I'm also excited to be able to see what the conversation will look like in the future there.
Yes, we intend to commemorate 30 years of the 1995 Constitution in style. I want to thank KCCA, which has given us permission to plant commemorative trees at the Constitutional Square. But we shall not stop at planting trees. That's a sign of a need to protect the future.
Yes.
Climate smart options, but also to be mindful of the future, where the youth are the majority and what country we are supposed to hand over, especially in degrading nature, the issues we shall talk about. We shall also have secondary school debates on how they understand the Constitution and its significance. We have commissioned an essay competition in universities on the 30 years of the Constitution, and we shall have both university students, reading their written speech or the oral speech competition. So we have two competitions of essays running in universities. That will be at the climax, the National Conference on the Constitution, where we are expecting celebrated retired Justice Johan Kreger from South Africa as a keynote speaker.
Excited about it when I saw the flyers, excited. But let me get to our next guest. Dr. Fred Muhumza, Director at the Economic Forum at MUBS. Good evening, Doctor, and it's good to have you.
Good evening, Timothy and our viewers and my fellow panelists. I don't have any extended intro like her because I'm just going to be part of what she's arranging.
No, the intro I thought about when I saw government changes. When you were always talking about rationalization of government, was this you?
These are things that have taken so long. You saw cabinet decision was in 2021, 22, this is 2025. Whatever we were looking forward to is long gone, but we'll see recover it.
We'll see how that goes.
Yes.
Lastly but not least, Honorable Medad Lubega Segona, representing the people of Busiro East, but also the chairman of COSASE. Good evening, sir, and it's good to have you. Both the incumbent and the aspirant.
Actually, incoming.
Incoming.
Yeah. Good evening, Timothy, my colleagues and viewers out there. I'm pleased to be here.
We'll get to that in a short while. Dr. Honorable Agnes Atimape, representing the women of Amolata and also Mama Rice. Good evening, and it's good to have you.
Good evening. Thank you very much. I'm actually the flag bearer of NRM for now. And most likely that I'll be coming faster than him because he hasn't got the flag.
Well, the distance will determine it.
The ballot box.
Yes.
Okay. Lastly but not least, the Honorable Minister of State in charge of National Guidance and ICT, Honorable Godfrey Kabyanga, is with us this evening. Good evening, Honorable, and it's good to have you.
Good evening, Timothy, and good evening, viewers. I'm also happy to be back here after quite some time.
Yeah, it's been quite a while, and hopefully you are geared up for this election to give us national guidance on what should be happening.
Yeah, I'm going to guide these two so that they don't even fight at this show.
So you can be part of the show. Go to our YouTube channel, drop your comment there, let us know what you think. We're streaming live on X on our space, UBC Live. Get there, drop your comment, let us know what you think. The number for text or WhatsApp, 0709 60 25 92. Let us know what you think. But also would like to celebrate His Majesty Oyo Nyimba Rukidi IV, who was coronated anniversary of 30 years as a king in Toro, and also celebrate His Majesty Nadiope, who also celebrated 11 years of coronation there. On a very disturbing note, teachers have gone on a strike, and that means some students, most of the country is struggling, especially promises that haven't been made in 3 years by government. Those are the two things that are really outstanding. Also, we condemn, if they arrest, kidnaps, whichever word you choose to use, we still condemn them. The National Unity Platform says there are over 100 people that have been arrested, and the number keeps growing. The question is this the election we would like to have as a country? Let's get to the conversation. It's befitting that I start with the Honorable Medad Zegona, because I saw his press conference speaking about the vetting. How was the vetting process? What was your thinking about it? Was it satisfactory to be able to get you to answer the questions that are really important?
First of all, it was not a press conference. It was a press statement, briefing, because immediately after the vetting process, I was swarmed by a group of journalists who wanted to know how it went. Like any other exam, you weigh yourself and see. We imagine how you could have fared. So I did express myself as to how I felt at the process. To answer your question of as to whether it is satisfactory, well, human nature is that you want things your way. If I were to have things my way, I wouldn't have allowed other people, especially those that are currently running against me, to participate in an election where I have expressed interest. So I did not expect things to go my way. So that's why I submitted to the process myself. But I can say, yes, thank you to the party that we have a process that is peaceful, that does not have kiboko, where you do not have to shoot at each other, where you do not have to fight each other. So we shall wait for the results. But I know I'm topping the class. It is not the kind of competition I would definitely have wanted, but because it is in place and it's a democratic institution, yes, you allow other people to participate, and that participation is healthy.
And I was really paying attention to some of the things that were asked in there: qualifications, education, understanding of the Constitution, mandate of being a member of Parliament, responsibilities, promises, assessment of the struggle. Was that part of the vetting process?
Well, different questions were asked, I believe, to different questions. I had my set of questions asked, and I don't know what they asked other people because I didn't ask them before, and I have not had time to meet those that came in after me to see the kind of questions they wanted. Would you want to suggest a curriculum or syllabus for us?
Because
we'd be very happy to hear your suggestion.
These were what was put out as part of the criteria.
Is there a problem with that? Let me know.
No. What I was asking, assessing a struggle against what? What struggle?
The struggle to remove the dictatorship. At least those who work with us know what we mean. You may not know it because you've not been struggling with us. In fact, we could have been struggling against you. So definitely within our corners, within our circles, when they ask that question, we are able to understand. You have no reason probably to understand the struggle we're talking about. Were people complaining?
No, no, no. The criteria was given. So we wanted insight into this criteria. When they say a struggle of 40 years against, like you have said, against the
Nobody
dictator.
talked about the 40 years.
Actually, it was in the criteria we were given as the press of what the vetting process
Yeah,
would
I
be.
mean, you cannot talk about 40 years if you've not been around. You explain from the time you joined or you decided to work with us or progressive forces of change. You explain according to your participation, your involvement, and your understanding of the question.
Lastly, Honorable, you have, if not the biggest constituents, how is this ground going to happen? You almost have 800,000 people, if I have it right, in Busiro East.
Yes.
The biggest constituents.
Your memory is working.
If I am to ask, how is this ground going to work? Because with an exam, you just said an assessment. Even with the local authorities, up to today, we have no assessment to tell us that Dr. Sarah or Dr. Mhumza, this was their performance, this was the area they fell short. How is that going to work for Busiro East?
I don't know how it's going to work because I'm not part of the group that is going to do the finding out. The duty is enormous on both the assessors and the assessed. For someone to come on ground in a constituency like mine, you're not talking about population alone, you're also talking about the size. We had options, I believe. One of the options would be to line behind photographs or pictures like the NRM. First, I believe we have limitations in terms of resources, that people can't do it that way. Secondly, we had the option of using electoral colleges, because that is what is in our proposed constitution, which constitution has not been gazetted. As you all know, we are in court. Somebody put an injunction on it as an alternative to the lining up, which is practiced by our colleagues in NRM. We had thought of electoral colleges where a flag bearer would be elected by a particular college, constituent colleges. That could not work. So we had to resort to improvise, because this is an improvisation. It cannot be perfect, 100%, but we must have a criteria anyway of choosing. And the authorities, or the leaders in the party, decided that we do it that way. Okay. Because otherwise you will not simply go and say, Nyangweso is going to be the flag bearer, so and so is going to be the flag bearer. I think that would also cause problems if we resorted to
Thank you. Dr. Sarah, let me come to you. When you hear the process of the National Unity Platform and look at the outcomes of the local authorities, about 60 members crossing to PFF, one of those you were there when they were celebrating, and you look at the lack of transparency in the vetting process, in giving us the results for us to understand the process and be able to critique it. What do you make of it? What do you see? Is Lightning going to strike twice? Because we had 60 people leave, people become independent. What do you make of this vetting process of the National Unity Platform?
You know, first of all, it's important to acknowledge that NUP is constrained by the Constitution and the process breaking the new amendments they had introduced in the Constitution. But having said that, I still think opposition parties in general need to focus more on competence of their flag bearers than popularity. Whereas politics is a game of numbers, multi-party politics are meant to increase competition and quality in service in politics, not to lower the bar. So if I were in NUP, given the circumstances they find themselves in, I would have created a grading scheme where I give about 70 or 60% to competence of a person. And then when it comes to popularity, and I'm trying to discuss the method they are using. When it comes to popularity on the ground, I would use a more scientific method of establishing the remaining 40 or 30%. I would use the Kish grid to remove aspects of bias. If I'm going, for example, to Honorable Segona's constituency, I will have first of all gauged members based on competence, the aspirants, out of 60%. Then I'm looking for the 40. The Kish grid demands that if I interview Timothy, I jump about 7 people before my next interviewer, and I maintain the same pace throughout the process. That removes aspects of bias. Because if anybody came to my village, I'm sure I'm the most popular citizen in my village. I would get 100%. And if you go to another village, I might get 0. Maybe they don't know me. So what decision do you make out of that? So I would have reduced that aspect of people participation. Why? Because multi-party politics should give us the best quality. Today the crisis we have with Parliament is quality and competence. We have, and I've said it several times, we have about 70% of MPs that are not supposed to be in that house. They are supposed to remain voters. So I wouldn't carry more voters to go in a place of legislators if I am in a party, because that's our problem.
And let's come to an issue called the ground that you have mentioned. You've given us, you've given us specifically competence would be the basis for vetting.
Yeah.
The ground, you say the cash, every 7 people.
Grid.
Cash grid, every 7 people there. How would you be able to get, what are you looking for on the ground?
Because they say they are judging people who are popular on the ground. Because basically, obviously, every party wants to win. And it's an important aspect. But I wouldn't give it more weight than the competence of a person. So having said that, that Kish grid mechanism removes all avenues of bias and will give you an accurate answer of whatever parameter you are looking for. So if I'm looking for who is popular in this constituency, there is no possibility of relatives ganging to vote that their relative is popular. There is no possibility of drink mates gagging to vote that you are popular because you buy them waraji every night. You remove all those possibilities and you reach at a systematic answer of who is grounded in that constituency.
Thank you. Dr. Muhumza, you do a lot of studies that really have numbers and diagnosis in this area. When you diagnose this process that they're trying to get the leaders to handle their flags, what do you make of it? Especially on the vetting and the ground. Will it get us the quality or leaders with national character that we're looking for as Ugandans for the next 5 years?
I think you begin by saying, what do you mean Ugandans, and how many of them are looking for quality in their leaders, which I think is the argument she's raising.
Yes, because we want to promote constitutionalism.
Competence is important when you are in parliament, but you need to first get there to display your competence. So what she's giving here is it will be the other way around. Because for the public, they want to vote who is most popular to us. And that could come because he gave us soap last night. I know somebody who in the NRM campaigns came through when his peers were spending money early. He said, people forget. Me, I would spend mine on that very day. And he won. So if that is the kind of electorate that you have, you first design and say, how do I get into parliament? Once there, who will decide what to do. because the competence is needed in parliament, but the people you are surviving on to send that competence don't even appreciate some of those issues. They are looking at a different criteria, which is what the NRM was trying to do, to say, all of you go and line up before the people, let the people support who is most popular for them, because that now will also speak on when you have the flag bearer, and most of the people here have supported you, you have a more likelihood of winning in the main general election. Now, as he has indicated, Honorable Segona here, his party is constrained on many fronts. The changes in the constitution, still in a court process. Resources. You saw how much money the NRM had to go through, the expenditures they had. So already you have a very complicated process, but that's what you should use. So sometimes I say, what difference is the next parliament going to make compared to this one? From the economic point of view, is it worth spending my trillions on that process? What am I going to get? But that's the constitution. Every 5 years we must change. But you know where we have not been changing? LC ones. Because there we simply say there is no money. Thank God the economics is listened to. You lawyers go and draft something that will help these people to continue legally, so that we continue, but we have no money. Because what does a constituency need? You spending $1 trillion to put some representatives out there who may not change the status of the people, or using this $1 trillion to address the health sector concerns, the educational concerns, the road concerns. You are really caught up in the middle of procedures and goals that you would want to have. And it would take Uganda to go back and rethink, how do we want to form our administrative structures and move on. There are countries that don't vote. They have developed. There are countries that vote. I'm not sure whether it is the voting that has developed them. Last week I was discussing with the people a very dicey situation in France. The Prime Minister decided and said, I would love to keep my position, but the economy deserves me to come out and say, this is what the economy needs. So whether I am to lose my political position, be it, but I'm not going to sacrifice the French economy for that office. So these are my proposals. We are going to cut pension and gratuity, because we don't have money for it. We are going to, these are unpopular things politically, but it's what the economy needed. What was the situation in France? The debt in France was increasing by 5,000 euros per second. And he said, we can't keep like this. I have to take the decision as a leader. And he lost his place. Fine, but that's it. So I want to come back and say, fine, people are going to vote, but what exactly is the real need of the people? I wish the voting was not about who goes there, but actually on where should we put the next $1 trillion? To healthcare facilities or to voting? Now, if Ugandans decided healthcare, education, and roads, then we can go and the lawyers will draft for us a statement. Let these guys continue until 2028. Who knows what the world will be like then? I mean, these are the dilemmas we have, but there are things we must insist on because we have subscribed to them. We inherited them from the colonial masters. We think democracy is the way to go, and it comes at a cost, and people will tell you it is costly, but it can sometimes be too costly to the economy and the population.
And Dr. Mumza, you seem to elaborate and say that the economy needs to come before the politics.
It should.
But also, I wanted to ask, when you look at 2011, 2016, 2021, and look at the economy after the elections, before, during, and after.
Yes.
How have we navigated those waters, and how do you see these ones?
Of course, 2011 was our worst in terms of economic indicators. If you're looking at the inflation that came through then, we are still struggling with the implications of that inflation. How? You just pick out one aspect. Because we wanted to manage inflation, we began selling bonds almost 17, 19%. This is a 20-year bond. To somebody who bought a bond at 19% in 2011, because we were fighting inflation, we are still paying them 19% today for the next extra years. Now, that 19% you are paying, and I keep saying people, look at what signal are you giving? If I have 10 billion shillings, I could go and establish a clinic in his constituency, a school, a farm. But right now, the signal, because we must find money for the elections, you are going to borrow that money from me at 17%. Meaning out of 10 billion, every year, you are going to give me 1.7 billion. You may take some taxes of 10%. Divide the 1.7 billion, you are literally going to be giving me close to 130 million per month for sitting at my home. And you haven't even touched my 10 billion because it's intact. This is interest, which you must give me. I don't know what you're doing with that money you borrowed from me because you wanted to finance an election. And remember, I've locked you in for the next 20 years. Until 2045, you're still going to be giving me 1.7 billion, and my 10 billion is intact. But there is the foregone service that I should have done with that money. So the signals, economic signals that you are bringing out there is what I've said helped us to say the LC ones. How much do we need? There are 770,000 villages. Can we run that money? It would require us some trillions. We don't have it. Parliament, please help us. How can these fellows continue to run the show legally, but we salvage and save the difficult questions? I would have loved Ugandans to have that debate on whether the elections are worth the foregone cost, what economists would call the opportunity cost, of the other things that this money should have gone to. Parliament just increased its allocation. The other day, the allocation of Parliament of almost 900 billion divided by 365 days was an expenditure of 2.6 billion per day. If you just to do a straight line division, including Sundays and public holidays. Now, that has even gone higher and might even go even higher. So you want to have that discussion with the citizens to say, shouldn't we be having a referendum and a debate on how we want to form government without government cannibalizing and eating the seed that is supposed to grow this economy? But that's not a debate for Ugandans to go to. I wish I had a way of voting over that rather than beginning to say flag bearer, because he's going to hold the flag. The other day I saw the speaker saying, Honorable Kasaija, you must find this money for this road in 2 weeks. It's as if Honorable Kasaija had somehow kept a pass there. Honorable Kasaija, that's not a new road to him. He goes through there going to his home. That road also leads to Honorable Nabanja's home. So it's not that the mighty in politics don't know about the state of the Mitiana Muvende road. They do. But they are unable to solve the problem. So does the politics, the way we are running it, matter? That's what the French Prime Minister decided. He said, if I'm losing my seat, it's okay. But let me present the economic solution to this 5,000 euro per second. People need to know what 5,000 euro is in Ugandan shillings, but maybe they may not have a good sleep. Let me keep it.
Let's just say that is 20 million per 5 seconds. Let me come to...
Per second, not
per second. 20 million per second. That's a lot of money. Let me come to Honorable Ape. Honorable, when you look at both your internal mechanisms as a national resistance movement and look at the mechanisms across the political players, are you giving us value for money? Let me put it plainly. 6.5 billion allegations spent by an individual at the lining up in Kololo. The Right Honorable Taiwa comes out and condemns the amount of money. Uhuru Salim comes out, condemns the money. For Honorable Segona, who is here, Honorable Nyeko came and said he was asked for 140 million. Then the mayor of Chirac comes out and says 3 people
What do
asking
you
for...
mean for Honorable Sagona is here?
No. I'm mentioning the National Unity Platform. The National Unity Platform.
You are the face of the institution,
Yes.
not you.
Not you,
But
the
need to
National Unity
clarify.
Platform. When you hear all these, the internal mechanisms, the
And where did
aspirations
you
of
say
Ugandans,
that?
and what Dr. Mhums has mentioned, hospitals, schools, children at home, are you as leaders giving us value for money, especially what is spelled out for this country?
Thank you. I think we need to appreciate that democracy, as per the Constitution, comes with a cost. Every other thing comes with a cost. And we also need to separate that from the monetization of politics. When you give examples of how much money was spent in Kololo, as you mentioned, I think that is an issue that needs to be addressed as a country. That if we are to have credible elections and deliver the dividends of democracy that our country needs, then we need to enforce the existing laws that outlaws the monetization of politics. And as a country, we are not short of these laws. We have the Election Act. I think my lawyers would you know, mention them better. We have these laws in place. What we should be asking ourselves now as voters, as leaders, is that what went wrong? Why are we not appreciating the existing laws that we have in every circumstances that we find ourselves into these election processes? And for me, I think that is more of an individual appreciation of what this game of politics and democracy is all about at individual level. Now, the other aspect that you're bringing about the value for money, I think we need, I hear my colleague economists bringing the aspect of the opportunity cost, the money, the economy, and the politics, and if all that. I think we need to appreciate that these leadership or democracy and the economy coexist. You cannot have the economy thriving without the leaders that will make decisions, that will provide policies, that will provide, you know, the leadership that the economy would love to see. I think he was talking about the signals that politics actually sends to the economy and all these aspects that actually if you don't have it, it even sends the worst, you know, signals to the economy. So for me, I think that the discussion we should be having is that if we are, and the way we are and our constitution to be a democratic nation, we should be discussing about how do we deliver that and how do we undergo the processes that will give us the leaders who can actually deliver the democracy that we want. For me, that should be the discussion. But I don't see as a country saying, let's leave this and take on, you know, leave politics and take on the economy. Yes, I'm aware of some countries that do not have elections, as my colleague says. Yeah, I mean, there are other ways that can be handled as well. But I think as a country, we have already found ourselves in, you know, that situation that we are a democratic country. We have to undertake elections after every other 5 years. And we have to plan for that. And we have a responsibility to then make sure that service delivery is also undertaken as per the needs of our people. So I think the discussion shouldn't be about either or, but more of how best can we actually deliver. I hear my colleagues about the competence, about the leaders that all these processes produces, about the electorates themselves. I think we should be in the position of one, which is one of the critical areas that we actually have to invest a bit more, is on the awareness and the civic education of all these processes that happens in the election.
Let me put a question to you. You talk about, let me start with the one you said. You talk about addressing the commercialization of politics. How much talking are we going to do? The president did the talking in Kololo that day. You have walked the streets of Kampala talking about corruption. At what point do we stop talking and start acting? The second one, you talk about service delivery. The cost of democracy, if we're to go back to 2011 or 2010 when people walked because the prices of food were steep, when we go to 2021 where inflation was in double digits, and you're saying we're in this, can't we change what we're doing for the betterment of this country? Or else, the example he gave of France, 20 million shillings per second. None of us here could be able to afford a meal if we went that way. Isn't there something we can change?
Two things from your question. One, walking the talk about corruption. You know, when we talk about corruption, we tend to point a finger to other people. And I remember our late speaker, Right Honorable Jacob Olanya, said that all of us here are corrupt. So the action of corruption is a shared responsibility. Those who give bribes should also start stopping to give the bribes. Those who take as well. And agencies and government agencies and all that. So I think for me corruption is a disease, is a pandemic. It's really a bad thing. It's really at the peak of it. And so to talk about corruption and how do we start acting and all that, I think as we talk here right now should be one of those actions and steps to start asking ourselves and start asking our communities and our citizens that corruption has eaten up our country, has eaten up the services, has done the worst anything can have ever happened to our country. Let us stop it and let all of us be responsible in wiping away corruption in our communities. Now, the question of the cost again and service delivery. To me, I think that as a country, we have processes. We identify the issues. We know we have health service gap. We know we don't have roads. We don't have electricity. We don't have education services to our people and all that. The discussion should be that it should be around the reprioritization of our needs. And if politics is one of them, then a discussion should start on how best do we still conduct these elections, but at a much more, lesser cost than the cost that we are looking at now. And one of the instances I'm seeing use of technology, for example, one of the things that my party NRM did for us to go and line up was to reduce on the costs. Because those days we would go and print the ballot papers, all these kind of things. So I think every other party, and hopefully also the general election, the Electoral Commission is also looking at how best do we leverage on the technology so that we reduce on the cost of elections, save that money, and put it into service delivery. So I think the discussion should be what are innovative measures, the initiatives, and all these aspects that we can employ to see how best we can still have democracy, but at a much lower cost.
Honorable Minister, let me come to you. As the person who is in charge of national guidance, when you look at the current political scene, the National Unity Platform is vetting. That means we'll have members of parliament that will be vying for positions. The NRM has just concluded its both SEC and all the way, the 72,000 villages that you talk about, 30 leaders per village. When you look at the current political situation and the charging that it looks like, what does it spell for us as a country?
I think what I'm seeing now in the politics of our country is that people are starting with the who. before they come to the what. But under normal circumstances, we're supposed to begin with what, and then we look for who. But we are starting it vice versa. At the end of the day, we are now voting according to emotions, not even issues, not even facts. Everybody now, the voting is all about emotions, some bit of politics of identity. If it is the Honorable Dr. Agnes, which clan does he come from? Which district? If it is Honorable Segona. I saw Honorable Segona the other day on news. He was telling the electorate, guys, if you think these people who I am standing with are better than me, please take your decision. But you just see that he's talking, he's saying it with a lot of what? A lot of pain. And this is really not good at all. And two, people now think the only way you can be a member of a political party is to become a leader, and which is totally wrong. My 89-year-old father was a member of UPC until 1985, and he had never even stood for Manyumba Kumi or anything, but he was a very strong member of UPC. In 1986, he joined the NRM. He has never been an RC, he has never been an LOC, but he's still a strong leader of NRM. Recently, LOC1 elections, when we were electing our flag bearer for LOC1, he stood behind someone, and that person got 240 votes, and the opponent got 7, who was actually even the incumbent. Because he is a senior leader, a retired teacher, and everybody still believes in him, and he's not even an LOC, but they still respect him as a party member, a strong party member, an opinion leader. But you look at NRM, we are 18 million members in NRM. We have 2.5 million elective posts in NRM. But now, all the 18 million think they are going to fit in the 2.5. The same with NUP. That's why you meet. Now, when someone is not given a flag in NUP, he goes to PFF. Then from there, another one goes to JEMA. And so it implies really you only came to NUP to get a what? A flag. You don't have any conviction that NUP is your party.
What other job is paying between 20 and 40 million? If you're not an executive in a company, what other job that anyone can compete for? But is an LOC1 getting 40 million? Do you know that even people are bribing to become LOC1 chairman? LOC1 chairman, some people are even killing one another to become LOC1 chairman. An LOC1 chairman is getting 10,000 shillings per what? Per month. But people want to kill one another. You know the cost of the stamp? You know the cost of the stamp? For each paper he stamps. No, now the cost of the stamp in Kampala. For transfer of title, exactly. For any paper you need for immigration, for a passport, for national ID, for certificate of good conduct, you need the LC1. Exactly. His stamp. Yes, let us say the cost of a stamp, but probably in Kampala here, where people are buying property of millions of what? Of shillings. But you look at Karamoja, look at Amolata, where an acre of land can even go for 50,000 shillings or even 10,000. That's a question. What is that cost? The cost of democracy versus the economic impact of it. Yeah, that one I accept. That's one I accept. People now think it's only politics which can give them quick what? Quick money. And that's what I'm saying. It's wrong. Completely wrong. And my guidance would be, please, if we are going to join these parties, let us go to parties to build our party and we love them.
and to build their structures. Like the old parties you hear, DP, UPC, for us who are a bit old enough to have seen these parties, you would see people working for their party with conviction, without even getting any benefit, any material benefit or monetary benefit, but they were working for their parties. But now it is as if you go to join NRM with some motive which is not even party related, and that one is totally wrong. And that's why even corruption is becoming very complicated to do what? To cure. Because someone who has spent billions of shillings in Kororo, you cannot expect that person to do good work. Not at all. He will need to recover that money through hook or crook. Someone who has spent 140 million, as you say, to get a flag of NUP in parliament, he will go there to serve his personal interests and not the interests of the people they represent. And that is wrong.
The last one, Honorable Minister, and this is not even about the National Unity Platform or the money that was spent in Kololo. This was a clip I watched, and the gentleman said, candidate X, for sake, because they're not here, I cannot mention their names, gave them 300,000. When candidate Y heard about it, he came and gave them 500,000. When candidate X heard about the 500,000, he came back and gave them 1 million shillings. At what point do you as government nip this thing to end the monetization of the elections, because it has an impact on the economy? Are you willing to do this, or you have just let it be so that every Ugandan can be able to find their own way?
Well, he has guided
I think as no. I think as
why isn't it that, and this is both to you and Honorable Agnes, why are you not at the forefront of this? Within the circles of what we had in Kololo, unfortunately this is national broadcaster, you had the amounts of money there. You had the money being given out there, but nothing has been done. You have the Entrepreneurs League and the Youth League going to happen at the districts, but as the sun rises tomorrow, we can tell you money is going to be given out, and nothing the NRM is going to do about it.
Did you hear about one contestant for the Entrepreneurs League who booked a resort outside the country and the chartered planes to take delegates there? Now, only to find that he could not get the delegates because another competitor had already flown them out of the country and taken them before him.
Did you get a reimbursement?
And to both of you, how have we degraded our politics, not just to the gutter, that we're in the sewers right now? How do we get national leaders like Honorable Segona and you yourself, Honorable Ape, that you're not just for Amolata or Busiro East, but you are a national leader? Is that possible in these elections?
I think what we, first of all, our democracy is a bit young. But I think it is starting at a wrong footing. And that one I have to accept. And as parties, as leaders of
40
parties,
years?
No, 40 years is a very short period.
The ones that you know.
Like NUP is only 2 years. Now,
no, I'm talking about the NRM.
Now, what I'm saying, I think as leaders of parties, we need to go back to the drawing board, because what is happening now is eroding most of the gains we have achieved in this multi-party dispensation since 2006. We need to go back to the drawing board and put there mechanisms where we can guard against bribery when it comes to internal elections or even general elections. That one we need, because it is now not NRM, it's across the board. Yeah. All candidates of all parties, mainly parties which are competitive, they are crying about the same thing. So now it is becoming a cancer that we need to really chew, and we need to move fast. As parties, we sit down.
How do we cure it?
I think there's our constitutions and our electoral laws need to be revisited, and we look at a way how we can minimize issues of human-to-human interactions and all this. We can do that.
Okay.
Yes.
Before Honorable responds, and this is a question I want to put to both of you, because already Honorable Segona said incoming, and Honorable Ape is the flag bearer. As soon as you get these flags, and God willing, come January, February next year, you are in Parliament, the next thing you're going to be looking over your backs is that your opponents are already campaigning. You will also have to be going back to the field. At what point do you serve? Because Honorable Segona knows very well, 800,000 people already, his opponents are already campaigning by the time he's in Parliament. He has to get back to the ground every Saturday and Sunday. Does this system really work for us?
At least he can go on foot. What about he? How?
For him, his constituency is even nearer. Timothy, I think the question of leaders' participation, but also service to the people, is a big one. Because of two issues. One is that the understanding of our electorates about our roles as leaders, as members of Parliament, is completely different from the constitutional role of a member of Parliament. Our electorates understand that we are actually supposed to be providing them the services that government is supposed to provide. And because as a country, we are still in that process of growth, that we may not have all the resources that we need to provide all the desired services. As members of Parliament, we find ourselves trapped in that kind of scenario where they're calling you to build a school, to drill a borehole, to build a church, to pay school fees, to pay medical bills and all that. And that is why you see most of this attrition rate, I would call it, that most parliaments, like I think it was 10th parliament, the data shows that at least 80% of members of parliament in every parliament loses the election. They lose election based on some of the high expectations of our electorates. How do we do that? You have to design mechanisms on how you're going to do your legislative role vis-a-vis your role to the constituency. Else you get trapped in the middle there. And the question of the implementation, or how do we reduce the issue of monetization of politics, of our politics, it's not so much about the law. We actually have the laws already in place. What needs to be done that the executive needs to help us with is the enforcement of that law. Just to make sure that there are mechanisms in place to ensure that the bribery, all these things that are happening needs to stop. People need to get arrested, and people got to be accountable to some of these things. But I mean, and also the voters, like I still go back, much as you're saying that civic education may not really do as much, but I think as a country, and our electoral commission needs to invest a bit more money into civic education than the materials, electoral materials and all that we have. Because if we go to a community that do not even understand what they expected of them as electorates, then we still have a long way to go. So for me, I think as a member of Parliament, it's quite a huge responsibility on us as well. And so it's something that really needs to be We need to engage a bit more on that, both with governments, the electorates, and the leaders ourselves. One of the discussions that is coming, and I have to say this to my chairman of NRM, it is not true that the government is silent about what is happening. In fact, one of the few meetings that we have had, the few caucuses that we have had after these party structure elections, our party is actually coming out very strongly on how to stamp out monetization, money in politics. But look, he's laughing, and yet actually his party is even worse than mine, because theirs, they ask you hard cash. Okay. At least ours, the cash.
You, it is in kind. You carry got.
So anyway, something I think is going to be done. That I can confirm.
Lastly, before we take a break, it's almost a double-edged sword. That as soon as you come into parliament, you also have to watch your back because the people are already on ground. Yeah. How do we as a country balance the service delivery versus...
And you benefit from our service.
Exactly.
Okay, first of all, the conversation is bigger than this. With respect to our colleagues in NRM, I really feel for my sister if she thinks that her party is going to come out strongly on that. I was a member of the 9th Parliament, and we raised a conversation. One day we had the State of the Nation address, and this question was raised by the late Honorable Cecilia Gual, put to the President, for, he put him on the spot for the envelopes, the khaki envelopes. Said, you're the one promoting this vice of monetizing politics. And you know how she would interrupt. You know, ordinarily, the President is supposed to be heard in silence. And I said, if I'm to hear him in silence, that's why, I mean, I have a TV set. That's why I don't waste my time going there. This time, Honorable Cecilia Gual interjects and said, you're the one promoting this vice. Spontaneously, the President says, yes, do you want to do the same? Are you the President? And you know, I had the Honorable Norbert Mao at some point telling the President that the fish begins to rot from the head. And I have never discovered whether it was an insult or not, so I don't know whether to use it or not. So, the gentleman retorts and says, you're not a president, so you cannot do the same thing I do. That's number one. I participated in two election petitions, presidential election petitions, one of 2001, another one of 2006. 2001 as a young law student doing research and helping the lawyers to draft the petition and affidavits. 2006, I participated as an advocate. And one of the things that arose was an accusation of bribery against the President. And that has been consistent. The courts, because the law stipulates that one offense of bribery or one electoral offense is sufficient to nullify an election, the courts, of course, chickened out and could not hold the President liable. So what they did, they coined something like, there is a government which is still running. The man is supposed to continue running a government. So whatever he does, he's doing as a president. Now, of course, there is a thin line, if at all, between the president and the presidential candidate. Going to Kololo, I am told he was the biggest supplier of money to some two competing vice chairpersons, female chairpersons, or deputies. Even when I saw the Honorable Rebecca, Right Honorable Rebecca Kadaga, crying that this is not an election because of the money, she was given, I'm reliably informed, 800 million by Genome 7. To do what? The Honorable Dr. Yoda Tumwesige wrote to the President and said, I went and borrowed 800 million from a money lender. And when we were in Russia, you promised to reimburse this money. I'm going to lose my property, or probably I could be locked up. The gentleman did not have the guts to ask you money. 800 million to do what? The best thing for which I am grateful to the president that he did was to leak that letter so that we could discuss it. It could come to the public domain. I think if you're to deal with this problem, you must appreciate it from the point of multiple organ failure. Whatever you are accusing us of, when you serve a government that has lost all its organs, the organs have collapsed, the pancreas has collapsed, that is the rods. The liver has collapsed, those are hospitals. You find one man with a big stomach, he's carrying a hospital in his stomach. Another man is carrying a rod in his stomach. You cannot talk about sanitizingness. There was also a gentleman I saw in the NRM primaries lining up, giving out 2,000 notes. The strategy of the NRM government has been to impoverish Ugandans so that they can be ruled cheaply. You provide 2,000 to somebody, that person gives you a vote. In 2001, I was doing my 4th year at university, and I did my research on elections and election petitions. I interviewed an old woman in Teso about what she understands by elections. Before she could answer anything, she told me, she just got up. I was talking to her through an interpreter. By that time, I didn't know Teso. So she turned and showed me the back with the torn clothes and said, anyone who gives me soap to wash my torn skirt will take my vote. Now, of course, it is vicious whichever way you look at it. If it is true, as she says, that it is worse in my party, you in your intro also talked about the Honorable Derek Nyeko. I have not talked about him. I've seen something on social media. I've also seen something in social media about the Honorable Nsamba Oshabe. I haven't talked to both colleagues. If indeed it happens, it is regrettable. Why? Because we are supposed to be the mirror of the country, especially when we talk about a ruling government that we have dubbed corrupt. The person who was dishing out 2,000 has not been arrested. Okay? The person who gave out money to people to go and bribe has not been arrested and cannot be arrested. Why? Because he has constitutional immunity. Going to the question of how do we ensure we deliver, how do we strike a balance between serving and running back to save our neck? Because somebody is in the constituency running up and down as soon as you're here. Today, a few hours before I came here, I was in the constituency talking to my people, to my voters in Chiengera. And I told him, gentlemen, when you vote for us, give us time to serve you. I said, I am now here talking to you. Parliament is sitting. The question is, what came first between the egg and the hen? Did we go wrong as your leaders first, or you went wrong? First of all, you, the voters, you go wrong by voting and sending us the wrong people. There is a group of people that are clueless, that is clueless about what we do at Parliament, as Sarah said. I agree. Now, that is the first form of corruption. You actually know that you are not able to do the work we are going to do in Parliament. You cannot hold the government in check, either because you are corrupt or you're clueless about what we do in Parliament. Some of the questions you're raising about the budget of Parliament, in fact, you guys are paying us much less than we deserve. For some of us who spend sleepless nights reading and writing reports, we feel cheated. Because there are those who literally do nothing. Either they come to sign reports or they don't even appear to sign reports. Either they don't come to Parliament, or they come and sit there while we are debating and arguing. They turn and look at us as if we are from Mars. Now, if only you could reduce the size of Parliament,
yes,
from a secondary school to a reasonable Parliament, and then you facilitate us better. Number two, you must go and cure your liver, which is infected, the kidney, which is gone, the pancreas, which is destroyed, such that you have a functional government. Why would someone ask me to work on a road, repair a borehole? Tomorrow I'm going to one of the villages in my constituency to repair a borehole. I have to run very fast before I am nominated. Yeah. Because after nomination, if I pay, that will be a bribe. If I don't run tomorrow to work on it, during elections I will go there, they say, we invited you to help us with the borehole. You did not come. Why should I be responsible for boreholes? For road? Because if I don't do it, there is no government to do it. Your government is not functional. I am the mini government in my constituency. So what is the solution? The solution is to say, where and when did we go wrong?
Okay.
We went wrong in 1986 when we ushered in a regime that is not going to serve the people, that is going to hoodwink them and say, we are pro-democracy, we are going to give you the services, we are going to give you PDM money, which will never be seen. You give a whole parish of, say, 50, 60,000 people, or even 100,000 people, 100 million per year, and the next electoral season, you come with some other promise or some other lie, and so on and so forth. We must bring such government to an end.
Okay, thank you. Let me read some feedback here. This is Enos. He says, opposition cannot agree to front one candidate because they do not have the same agenda, but only selfish interests. And I am not aiming at removing the NRM government. Okay? Hamza says, Dr. Mhumza is on point with what he's saying. The economics needs to lead the politics, not the other way around. Okay? Then I have seen Muije, who is also saying, I agree with Dr. Sarah, especially on the commercialization of the politics. It needs to be curbed, but these laws cannot curb that or anything moving forward. Okay. Keep the messages coming. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be discussing. Is it still hot? No, you take it.
Kizungirizi. Banange. Funa kabodi. Sentwale na mukenda. Sinsi nana mwasa. Gano gwaka. Tato MTN buli mwezi okumala emyezi 8. Wende mulire kabonde super kati okuva ku duka lya MTN wonna mu ggwanga. Everywhere you go, MTN. Ekolera wansi w'amateeka ga UCC.
Revered as the patrons of the wild, my horn stood tall, announcing my presence among Africa's big 5. Yet, with all my strength, I struggled to survive. Then Uganda Wildlife Authority gave us something, a safe home at the Ziwa Rhino Sanctuary. And here we began to thrive again. Today, we are 48 members strong, with 17 cows, ready to take our unique story into the future. This is your lifetime opportunity to name a rhino, and with it, find the conservation efforts that keep our story alive. For more information, visit our website, www.ugandawildlifeauthority.org.
The government's core mandate is to maintain law and order, safeguard citizens' rights, and provide essential public services.
Remember, one of the pillars of a roadmap is innovation and entrepreneurship.
There has been this question of how are you protecting our indigenous seed?
There's going to be a toll project that answers somebody's question.
The Front Bench has brought you insightful discussions on governance, security, healthcare, justice, and commerce.
Why do you go through this complicated procedure, involve the lawyers? You bring the case against him, the judge will hear you out and pass judgment, and you're out of court in record time.
We remain committed to keeping you informed and engaged on key national matters.
So these are huge, these are powerful organizations which now Uganda chairs. Why don't you come together?
If we haven't migrated to the e-card because of various reasons, including that not all the people of Uganda have smartphones.
You can sit in your house, apply for a passport. If you have a Ugandan who has a successful logistics firm in the US, it means he can come to Uganda and do a lot more.
Every Monday at 8:30 p.m. with me, Jethro Kasaiji, your interface with the government only on your public broadcaster, UBC, Inspiring Uganda.
Welcome back from that quick commercial break. My name is Timothy Nyangweso, and this is Behind the Headlines as we get to the last leg of the show. I'm joined by Dr. Sarah Birete, Dr. Mhumza, Honorable Medad Rubega Segona, who keeps us on our edge, especially when we go on break before we come back. Honorable Agnes Ape and the Honorable Minister Godfrey Kabyanga. And we're discussing everything, what the next 5 years look like in this country, and zeroing in on these political parties. Can they deliver the aspirations of all Ugandans, or we're falling short? And where and why are we falling short? Yes.
That incidentally, politics is supposed to stabilize the economics.
Thank you.
If the politics is not stabilized, the economics wouldn't work. And he said that's why he wants to overthrow us. And I said, before overthrowing us, first of all, fire him from the university and disable him from any means of overthrowing us.
Actually, that will send me where I will overthrow you better. Because in the university I will argue, the other side I will act.
Let me come to Dr. Sarah. Dr. Sarah, some very interesting points that have been made, especially when Honorable Segona talked about his research of the lady in Teso, who said, whoever gives me a bar of soap for my skirt will be the one.
Not a bar, a small piece.
It's not a bar.
But also the amounts of money we have spoken about. These messages that are leaking on social media. We as Ugandans, this commercialization, we seem to be the ones promoting it. Are we getting the leaders we deserve because of our bad manners?
You see, we need to ask ourselves as a country, how come under previous governments, MPs were not doing roles of digging boreholes, of building roads, and they were concentrating on legislation and the oversight, which is their major function. Why are MPs in service delivery, buying ambulances and all that kind of thing? It's because there are no services going to the people. So the people have resorted to a pay-as-you-go type of governance. Because whoever goes through elections goes to do their own things. So they have also marked campaign time and instead of demanding for accountable leadership, it's where is my share? So my share is the accountability that voters...
My share in advance.
Yes, because if you don't pay it, they are not going to see until the next election. So we have a total distortion of leadership in the country. On one hand, you have high rates of deprivation. As much as on paper, Dr. Mhumza will tell us there is economic progress. But when you go to the deprivation in the regions, northern Uganda, some parts at 68%. When you go to parts in the east, 68%, people cannot afford basics. People are dying in poverty. Income inequality is at 0.48 coefficient gene, which is almost 50-50 between the haves and have notes. And the paper economics is not making sense to most people. Even when a government is counting economic progress, that's why many people no longer listen to government speeches, because they don't make sense of whatever you are saying does not apply to their lives. So if you can find a person saying, I need a piece of soap to sell my sovereign rights, if I was a leader, I would become very sleepless on how to change this kind of situation. Because voting is the most important duty of a citizen. If people are exchanging it for 2,000 in a line, then it's a big problem. So on the other hand, you have leaders who now concentrate on amassing wealth to buy off the poor people, to buy off the soul of the nation through this grand auction called the elections. So democracy is, that's why the economics are saying we need to get rid of this thing. It's not making sense. But what do we need to rectify? First of all, I still think political parties have to help us improve quality of leadership through several processes of sieving out who is competent to lead. Because the benefit of a party is that if you have NRM members, like they say they have 18 million, although we saw about 5 million in their primaries, I don't know whether more than 12 boycotted their own elections. So even the number does not make sense.
Are you the custodian of our register?
No, but how come you are voting? You are voting numbers in your own elections. You produced about 5 million. So where were the 12? So I don't know whether even that number makes sense. It could be because but if you have 18 million, like they claim, it means that if these 18 million, you tell them that our leader is Dr. Apea for this region, this 18 million should be able to follow. So the claim of leaders being led by the masses is a distortion that people should reject. We need to see leadership. Why should the people you are supposed to lead be the ones telling you what to do? What is the meaning of leadership? So we need to see leadership in the party. Let parties hold grassroots political debates. If you have 10 aspirants for Busiro East, let hold the campaign, political candidates debates. Come to runners up, the winners, the runners up, then you say 2 are the people qualified to compete for the flag instead of 10. See, drop the rest in that grassroots process. And when you make your choice of who you are supporting, this party should be able to go to Busiro East and tell their people that our candidate is Honorable Segona because of IPC. And if you are our member, you should toe the line. If you are not, then you're not. So we need to have sensible multi-party politics. We need also to cut down, because the commercializing politics is not just on the electoral campaign. Why should politicians be the most paid in Uganda? As much as we need to pay them more, but can we pay them for value? Today you have 500 and so. 529. Yeah, we have forgotten the counting. You have 529.
We are getting more.
Do you want them to line up?
we are getting more with the new
districts.
Yes. And then we are going to start the counting. Somebody sent a book on WhatsApp teaching us how to count like Tango Doi.
Yes.
Then also Tango Doi published one. How to learn how I count.
Yes. So we need to go to Parliament and say, we need, for example, about 100 MPs. At most 200. So let's get rid of the 320. Send them back home to do other things. Some of them don't even know. And this is a genuine conversation. Some of them don't even know what it means to be an MP.
Dr. Sarah, before I leave you to get to Dr. Mhumza, I want to put 2 questions to you. One is 2016, the numbers show 5 million people did not vote. 2021, about 8 million did not vote. What will take Ugandans to the polls? Because when they look at all this, really, why should they go to the polls?
People have lost hope in democracy. We need to restore hope. And it's not just elections. Elections is one of them. The second issue making people lose hope is disrespect for the constitution and fundamental rights and freedoms of the people. If you have a government of honorable, it mothered and fathered the 1995 constitution 30 years ago. But they are the people conducting abductions of citizens.
Even the way he was looking at me.
Yes.
Scares me.
Yes.
Did you see how Honorable Kabianga was looking at me like
You're scared you can be abducted.
Yes, no, to guide you.
Why don't they abduct Sarah?
The government has disregarded the constitution. They have disregarded procedures, all procedures in the constitution.
Yeah.
The way they are treating citizens. Government is the enemy of the people. In opposition strongholds. A government, we shall reach a time when a government vehicle parks and people take off to the bushes because they don't know what they've come to do. The mistrust, the loss of hope, the abuse of rights, abuse of rule of law has further eroded democracy. People don't see reason why they should vote. The other issue is corruption. So elections, now there is a page doing rounds on social media. URA used 6 trillion to repair vehicles. And honorable, you are the chair of park.
6 billion.
That's not true.
6 billion. One vehicle cost more 106.
105 million.
To repair.
Yes.
To repair.
So why? Why don't they get rid of those vehicles? Does it make economic sense?
Now, I think I can answer that, to be fair to URA. Again, it is because of a dysfunctional government. Because someone has to chase, what are they called? These cross-border.
Smugglers.
The smugglers. He needs a vehicle. Now, you put a caveat or moratorium on the entity not to buy vehicles for a given number of years. But these are vehicles that are running every now and then. So you force people to spend heavily on maintenance. Why? Because we don't know our priorities. URA is your cash cow.
Okay.
You don't give them money. But I agree with you, Sarah. How can somebody, how can the country spend 106 million on repair, as if you cannot buy a new car? A government cannot afford to buy a new car for an institution that is collecting money to feed the nation.
So as I conclude, so these all years happening have made people not see the reason why they should vote.
Dr. Mumza, let me come to you. Okay. Something that they talked about, tax administration, and something I heard the president talk about, one of the strategies for the next tenfold is tax administration, tax collection, how they're going to hire more people and all these things. When you look at this and look at the increment alleged on domestic collections, does that look like that come the elections after 2026, in hindsight looking at 2031? How much we're investing in tax administration? Give an example of a car of 105 million, the 14% tax base that we have in this country, we still want to get to the tenfold. Is this feasible, or it is a dream? And the ATMs, is this feasible?
Well, as I said earlier, sometimes they say the end justifies the means. As we are here, people in Europe are playing football. There is the goal. Now, whether you use this side, whatever, the point is, I know the goal. And it must not be an own goal in my own goal. I want to score there. So what is it that Uganda needs? If we can agree on that, then we'll come back. We're saying the politicians should not be washed away, or we don't need leaders. The question is, how do you select and put in place those leaders? So for me, the whole question is on that process. How do you put the leaders in? China also has its leaders. Have you heard them vote? But they have leaders, and they have delivered on their results. India has, these are big countries. India has the biggest democracy. The Americans just voted the other day, they put Trump in. We don't want to discuss where they are going and where they are not going. But they have their own issues. But for me as an economist, you don't put tariffs by country. You put tariffs by items. So because I want to nurture cows, I'll put tariffs on anybody bringing in milk products. But you don't say, I'll put tariffs on Kenya, 90%. No. What if some of the things you badly need are coming from there? So at the East African community, we have what we call a sensitive list product. So we put tariffs or taxes on any item coming from the East African region. But each country will come and say, please secure for me these because I need them as a country. So those will put them on the exemptions list. Now, what kind of leaders do you need and how do you select them? That is the end I want to have. Now you're going to come and say, I want tenfold growth. Is the current structuring of our selection of leaders going to speak to that? If the process of appointing and selecting the leaders itself is already undermining your investments in roads and bridges and hospitals and schools, which is the human resource you so badly need to get your tenfold growth. So you want to get back to that conversation. I have worked closely with a number of people, including the local authorities. And URA has been put more people out to collect taxes. But we already have exemptions. Now you are going to come and find the Honorable Segona's voter who earns 3 million a year. So even when you find them and register them, they are already exempt by the threshold. So it's not a question of putting too many people to go around and register. The voters register has actually expanded, but the taxes have not. Because we are picking more of people who can't even pay the taxes.
But there are those who are above the threshold and we exempting them.
Exactly. So that is not about numbers, because we know them and we can find them. So it's about strategy. If my target is to increase tax revenues, what should be my strategy? You may need numbers, but the numbers may only bring you people on the register who are not going to pay tax. I've always used the simple example. We all come to donate blood, but doctors will say, sorry, thank you for the willingness to donate blood, but we think
your blood may not.
You also need the blood. So quite often what we have been finding are taxpayers whom you meet really as a tax collector, and you say, why don't you just leave this one? In the law, we have so far said, and this is really what I would want members of parliament to consider. Anybody earning less than 235,000 a month, no pay as you earn. This is what we did with Honorable Maria Chwanuka in 2013. 12 years down the road, the cost of living and all these kinds of things, I would now be saying anybody below 400,000, possibly even 500,000. Let them just go and look after themselves. Thank you for the generosity, but please.
Incidentally, those people are the ones that invest in stalls, chapati stalls.
Yes.
They employ people.
Yeah.
And we overlook such contributions to the economy.
And because of that, when you exempt them on pay as you earn, which is an income tax, they are still going to pay taxes on consumption items.
Yeah, the indirect.
Now, in Uganda, we have a academic intellectual laziness. If somebody is not registered with the URSB and I don't know which company, we say they are informal. Now, the border has shocked us. Question their statistics or not. But they will tell you we are 1.2 million borders. Now, you will call them informal sector. But remember, if each one of them uses 2 liters a day
of fuel,
of fuel, every liter we have 1,500 shillings of tax. So each one of them daily is paying 3,000 shillings in tax. You call them informal? They are the biggest tax contributors in a certain way. Now, you not having them registered and does not mean they are informal. They have NINs, which helps them to get their national IDs and the bank accounts and all sorts of. So they are formal in a sense. Now, you want to say, I need more people to collect taxes, yet there are already inbuilt mechanisms that collect taxes from even those you think are not paying tax. Because quite often we say informal people are not paying tax, but they're actually paying tax. There is a VAT on this water. These guys drink this water. There is VAT on fuel, as we've said. They pay all sorts of things. They are paying rent. Rental income is coming from these fellows. Because they rent, they pay. So we need to understand better and say, if it's about increasing tax revenue, can we first understand the nature of our economy? Then that will determine whether I hire people or actually I go by digital approaches. But even if I hire people who are what we call the net worth, MTN may not necessarily be the biggest taxpayer. But because everybody buying data is paying tax, and MTN simply collects it and hands it off. As we've said, Shell is going to collect all these taxes. But eventually, the tax will get back to Shell via the pump price. So understanding those things will remove our laziness of saying our tax revenue is low because of informality. I don't see any informality in this country to that level.
Doctor, my last question before I go to Honorable Segona. Every election we have economic shocks, either because of the circulation of the money or because of the balance of trade. What economic shocks do you foresee, and how do we navigate them so that we don't have multifaceted poverty increasing in this country?
I wouldn't even put the shocks on cycle of elections. This economy is how many trillions? So how much are they going to put into the system? It's not going to cause a shock. The things that will cause you shocks are different. This economy is already suffering because of high interest rates. Now, the Americans have finally cut interest rates 0.25%. Trump's man wanted to cut further, but they said no. Because a lower rate allows people to borrow, consume, and invest. Now, and employ others and grow your economy. That's why others will say between inflation and employment, I think let me allow some little bit more money so that I kickstart this economic system. That's why we're importing rice, not from Amolata. Our farmers are suffering because it is cheaper for me to get rice from Tanzania. Now, these are economic decisions you would want a parliament of 100 to be addressing, not a parliament of 530 and 60 now. Who will not appreciate? Who will not appreciate? Because we are going to add on the incoming. I'm talking about the incoming and yourselves. So you want that solid conversation at that level to say where should we put the interest rate to actually support the communities. Now, your PDM, as we've said before, we may raise interest rates because government wants to borrow and raise $1 trillion to give to PDM farmers. But after the PDM farmer has done their chicken, they need to sell it to an aggregator, who is not a PDM. The aggregator is the guy who has the fuso, who has the money to come and buy off your eggs. But this guy is now borrowing from Centenary, where because government raised the interest rates to 17%, he is borrowing at 30%. He's going to pass on this extra cost of borrowing by paying less price on the farmer. This is a discussion you want to have in Parliament to guide who is in charge of interest rates in Uganda. It's government borrowing. But the same government that has borrowed and driven the interest rates there can't even find money to fix the roads because the same debt has taken the money. Now this URA guy, pity him. He must be a risk taker, knowing the arrears government has, and he factors that in. I'm going to buy a spare part from Kisenya and Kiseka, fix the URA vehicle. I might get paid after 4 months.
Or even 2
So he factors that into the pricing. So you don't blame this guy. Because remember in Kiseka he paid for the spare part in April. But you are going to pay him
next year.
Next year, if at all.
In fact, the biggest Auditor General's query that comes in year out are domestic arrears.
Exactly. So this guy is factoring in that. That's why when Muhumuza takes his same car to this guy. He's going to repair mine at a very low price because we settle within the same day or same week. But government is, they might not. But remember, I borrowed money from my circle or my peers. So the interest is building up. They put also that into the system. It also goes to your procurement. How does URA identify the garages? That process alone can leave URA with the worst service providers. Because they are going to advertise. Now people know in government, they are no longer coming to bid. So you end up with the most crafty. And we have seen this happen all over. Because even in the banking sector, we say, you're going to borrow to go and do a government tender? Please, the door is open. Because you are going to become a non-performing asset to me. I've lent you money, government has not paid you, I'm demanding from you, we end up in court. Any person dealing with government projects. Now, government has become not only discredited in terms of the expectations of the people, the voters, but also the expectations of the business community. So at the end of the day, government has become a high-cost entity that to work with the government, you must factor in the risk. What would have other people have done? Mr. URA, stop buying vehicles. Please.
Give people allowances.
No, don't. You can give people allowances, but you can also listen and say, Toyota Uganda and Nissan and others, I need 100 vehicles. Now the vehicles remain a property of Nissan Uganda. So you work with them, you use them and pay monthly. Now if that vehicle requires repairing, Nissan will do it. And Nissan is a credible entity to those other garages. It also has its own garages. But you now do two things. One, you have avoided a very costly process for repairs. But now I also don't need 400 million to buy a car. Because if you need 100 vehicles for URA at 400 million, because remember people are factoring in, this is government. So a vehicle that would have been 250 million, government is going to buy it at 400 million. So now all that capital stock to acquire the vehicles, I offload it to Nissan and Toyota and whoever else is in that market. That's why we are also debating about Uganda Airlines. A lot of companies simply lease planes. You don't have to buy. Why should I spend $100 million buying a plane when Boeing is happy to say pay monthly and lease? Now these are for me discussions.
So now you agree that Parliament is useful because that was our recommendation.
But I don't need the 400.
But you know what?
Allow me to come to Honorable Seguna.
Maybe that's why we didn't even get it, because some of you were
Honorable Seguna, the law says that the Electoral Commission may use technology. But listening to the President, listening to the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, it seems this is going to be mandatory. And if it's anything to go by what the President said in one of his speeches, that if a biometric fails, that polling station is gone. What impact do you foresee in all these 30+ polling stations, with our reach of technology, with our reach of internet, with the understanding of these biometrics, it coming in late, an amendment that might show up on your floor of Parliament in the shortest time possible?
When I used to teach, there would be a demand for results. Some people would say marks. He remembers. One day I had an argument with Professor Balunywa when he was demanding for marks. I said, sir, what exactly do you want? Do you want results or marks? If you want marks, I'm in a position to give you marks in 2 hours from now. But if you want results, give me time to mark your students' scripts. With respect to the Electoral Commission in Uganda, they can give you marks. They can give you your marks, whether there has been an election
or not.
Now,
what's the difference between marks and the results?
That's not true.
Results means that there is a process you go through. If you want marks, I can sit in my room and start manufacturing them. Timothy Nyangweso, if the name sounds well for me, 98% or 80%. Muhumuza, this Muhumuza should get 50.
As long as nobody fails.
Exactly, because when people fail, they can ask for a remark.
Which you have not done.
And you have not marked. Now, you know, there is an age, I've had aging relatives, where you reach and you become paranoid and gullible. I am told by some people close to the president that that man is convinced that Noop stole his million votes in Kampala. He's very much convinced. They have also told him that he's able to recover those votes if we go digital. When the Electoral Commission appeared before the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, we did ask them a question. One, shall we need internet? Two, shall we need electricity even to charge these gadgets?
Power banks.
Power banks. Three, one of the consistent accusations with the findings of court consistently in every electoral cycle is that the presiding officers or the officers of the Electoral Commission are not sufficiently trained. In the recent census, if you remember,
Yes.
the first 2 days, people did not work because they were saying that either the machines are down or the people didn't know how to use them. When we were making that law, we were deliberate and conscious in using the word may. Because what is needed is identifying the voter. Now, if you're going to say that where the machines fail, either because of human error, manufacturing error, mischief, or whatever reason, the machine has failed, there's going to be no vote. People are going to burn electoral materials. Because by that time, people are charged. Now, General Museveni believes in force. That no, we can force them to do things the way we want. That's number one. Number two, don't even imagine that we've had problems with elections because of not going digital. Do you remember the day when Dr. Besigye and Lord Mayor Yasukwago were brutalized in Naguru? The accusation, allegation, or information was that results would be transmitted to Naguru. There was a server in Naguru where ISO would interfere with them before transmitting them to the National Election Tally Center. Now, Ugandans must not celebrate because the old man says we are now going digital, there is no way of rigging. Actually, going digital could be a recipe for rigging. Because you, Timothy Nyangweso, or even Dr. Muhumuza, I'm seated between doctors and I don't know whether Kaliang and I are safe. Probably that is the reason you wanted to kidnap me and not kidnap me. You know, you have no means of following up to see if those results have not been digitally interfered with. One day I was in the UK and there was an election. A friend of ours was standing for local council as a councillor. The man, after voting, took us out for lunch. So we asked the guy, you man, they are going to rig your vote. You're here drinking and eating. He said, why should I go to protect the vote? Am I government? I'm not government. He said, I pay somebody my taxes to protect my vote. He asked me, am I a police officer? No. Am I an election officer? No. He said, I have done enough by offering myself as a candidate. Now, when shall we reach that level where we can trust the Electoral Commission, we can trust the police, we can trust the military, we can trust DISO, GISO, and so on and so forth. We are not yet there. When shall we reach a level where I will be confident that as I am seated here ISO is not interfering with my vote. The biggest daily expenditure in an election is that vote protection day, election day. Between the voting morning and declaration, people are on high alert. They are spending left, right, center. There's a gentleman who came to me in 2011 and told, because he had been cited as a notorious rigging thief in that parish. So I called him and told him, you know, you interfere with my vote, you're in big trouble. He said, no, I can't interfere with yours. You have been a minister in Mengo. I can't, because you're darling to all of us. I said, thank you. Now, after election, guess what? The guy comes to me and says, and they give you money for the car? Yes, sir. I want 10%. I said, oh, for the car, you want 10%? I asked him, will you carry me on your back? In other words, will you become my car? I said, but now for what? You remember when we agreed that I do not rig your vote in my parish? You know, the man even thinks it is time. Yeah. It is his season. You know, there are people in Nyendo during grasshopper season in November or in April. They said this is now a season. They bring their drums, they bring their iron sheets, they go and pay electricity bills,
they cheat
or find ways of cheating. I was going to say umeme. That is, I really feel for them now that the season is coming and UEDCL is in charge. I don't know whether they will have electricity for catching their grasshoppers. Now,
they will buy generators. If
the point I'm making is that there are even those who think this is a season for feasting.
Yep.
Some electoral officers, mischievous electoral officers will say, it is our season. Some security operatives will say, now this is my time.
The voters?
The voters say, it is my time. So, we are at that kind of crossroads. So, digital or not digital, you were talking about laws and so on and so forth. As long as you do not have the will to stick to the rules, to stick to what the law provides, forget about a credible election. And then somebody asked me, some people ask us, why do you participate? And I said, look guys, there is no room for somebody who sits and waits for things to happen by themselves. We must move and cause things to happen.
Honorable Agnes, let me come to you. The PFF came out and announced they will not have a presidential candidate. And their MOU with ANT has given them General Montu. The National Unity Platform, where Honorable Segona falls, is vying for the Honorable Chagulanyi. When I look at what the Electoral Commission has put out, so far, 22 candidates have handed in their signatures, or a little bit higher than that. When you look at the presidency of this country, including your candidate, both chairman and the candidate, why should Ugandans be interested in your government or an alternative government?
Why?
Why?
I think it's their constitutional right to elect a leader and to elect a president that will lead the country for the next 5 years. But that also shows you that, to me, it is actually the level of democracy that we have reached as a country, that anybody can actually go and pick a form to be a president. In the other context, you could also see that there's a discontent in the community, that they think that if that person cannot do it, why not me? And for me, it's a very positive thing in my view, that people are actually offering themselves to lead and to offer options and all that kind of stuff. As citizens, why they should be interested is that for communities to grow or to develop, there is need to focus on people should be interested to know what happens in that leadership space. Because we've been discussing here scenarios where some people sit back, they don't vote, they don't want to know, they don't want to be a part of anything. So we actually have to applaud the over 20 or so people that have shown interest. And maybe we are going to see even more people showing interest in later elections to come. And so as the citizens of this country, we should be interested in the position
how do we
of
find
presidency.
A democratic system that works for us as a country? Because we have been at this is the 7th cycle we're in. But how do we find something that works for the people? Because it seems like it's a ritual. We just get through it and then move on to the next 2031.
I don't know where you're coming from when you say it's a ritual, and at the same time you agree that we have a constitution that we all agree to, that elections should happen every 5 years.
Honorable, when anyone wants to hide behind something, it's either a policy or a constitution. What Ugandans want, like you have said, the people in Amolata, the tractors are seated, there's no rice being done, Tanzania is flooding our market with rice. What people want are basic things. Their children to go to school, jobs to be available, a health system that works. That's the minimum required.
Just the teachers have begun their strike.
No, teachers began their strike on Monday.
They include the teachers from Kanyareli.
This one just wants to include that. No, I think I think we are missing out something really in all this. People and leaders coexist. These are the people who elect the leaders, okay? And so, as a people, we exactly know what we want. And one of the things we want is actually to elect leaders that can provide us what we want, in my view. And so the interest you are seeing in the leadership positions, I think my colleague was talking that in my party, we have about 2.5 million people who want to be leaders.
Million posts.
2.5 million positions in my party. And so...
Let me ask, you say, Honorable, that what the people want, the slogan for the next 5 years is protecting the gains. What gains? And what are you protecting? From who?
But Timothy, you need to agree that as a government, there are achievements that this government can talk about and can be seen. You cannot
16 to 18% performance of NDP3.
Let me tell you that every growth is a process, first of all. So even if NUP comes to, even a
slow process, progress is progress.
40 years?
I agree. Slow progress is progress.
Even if it is 100 years or 200 years like the American people, it's growth.
Have you ever heard of the word stunted growth?
Forget about these. Forget about these ones. So anyway, yes, Timothy, back to the issues. There is no way you are going to wash away the achievements that this government has done over the years. Okay? And there is no way you're going to say that, oh, what is there and what has not changed and all that. We need to appreciate that some work has been done. And a lot more work is ongoing, okay? And for me, that is about growth. Even if my colleague is saying stunted growth and all the same, that child will grow anyway, although maybe might grow slowly or something like that. So I think we need to appreciate that as a government, there are things that we look at. And if you say, what are we protecting, the gains and all that, Timothy, if you come from the region where I come from, and you say that there is nothing to protect, and you forget about talking about peace and stability, to protect that peace and stability, then you'll be deceiving yourself. Because it's true that for the last 20 years, I think, or so, as other people were peaceful enough to sleep in their homes and all that. My own people did not have that peace. And if NRM comes with the word protecting that peace, I don't see anything. And actually, I appreciate that message. It's a very good message for some of us who appreciate that peace and stability.
Okay.
Were your people sleeping in their houses during Obote too?
I don't want us to go there. We shall have another discussion. We shall have another discussion on that. But I want to tell you that from 1986 to around 2005, my people were sleeping in the IDP camps. And that is why we appreciate that for the last 20 years, we are able to sleep in our homes, and so we are ready to vote and protect that peace and stability that we have had over the last 20 years. So it's not about for who and what is again. So if it is one thing that we are protecting is that peace and stability. And for who? For my people who have suffered that insecurity over the years. And so many other things that we can really assess. And I'm glad that, I'm sure that one of the panel here, we talked about the performance of the several NDPs that we've had over the years. My colleagues economists will tell you that our growth has been from some level to about 6% or something like that.
She has lost one gay. Mama Rice.
No, that will be worked on. So Timothy, that kind of questioning needs to be put in context, really. We can't wash away everything that the government has done.
No, we don't dispute that there is no achievement. Yeah. We're just questioning the process and the progress of the achievement.
I think if you are fair to the government, you need to be fair to this government. First of all, you have a group of people that came here, and somebody did not even own a kilogram of soil. He has 10 square miles of land. Somebody who came not even with a pussycat or a dog goes to Rubona and grabs government cows and starts a farm. Those are mega achievements. Somebody who came with a son who was in Peace 3 and is now a CDF, supervising and overseeing abductions with impunity.
I expected the cynicism there. Let me come to the Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, your colleague, the Honorable, and I know he's not here, but I think you can be able to speak into this. He made profound statements that I want to pick out a few words that he said that really you can help us interpret. One, he said that the NRM, UPC, DP, FDC, DF is a group on one side, and they will win by 80%. And they are the cement and the building of the foundation of this government. He also said they are regime fundamentalists like PFF, ANT, and NUP, and compared them to the NDC and the NPC of the two blocks both in Nigeria and Ghana. But these are the words that caught me. He already classified us in those two. He also said this is going to be the most peaceful election. He went ahead and said for those who will antagonize it, they will be given peace. So please help us understand what you mean by, he even went ahead to say, I have said more than what I was supposed to say. What peace are you talking about? What segregation is this? And he said the transition will not happen in this election. It will either happen in 5 or 10 years. Please interpret these statements for us.
That was an update on
this is the Honorable Norbert Mao, the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, a statement he made today
about elections.
About elections, and said how peaceful they will be. This will be the most peaceful election ever. Those are his words verbatim.
He should have released the results.
First of all, the Honorable Norbert Mao is the minister in charge of elections. And therefore, if he can assure Ugandans that there will be peaceful elections, you should be sure that they will be peaceful. And therefore, you should take his word. He's the one who supervises the Electoral Commission. and he has assured, he has put their measures.
Which is an independent electoral commission.
He already has results.
Is the one, the Electoral Commission is under Ministry of Constitutional Affairs, and is the one supervising them. It is an independent electoral commission, and I am very, very sure he has put there all the measures to ensure the elections are peaceful. And to go back to the electronic biometric.
Before you get to the biometric, such a statement can be read from both different angles. You read it from an angle that he's giving confidence.
Yeah.
But it also could give that there will be a military operation to subdue anyone. Every nail that comes out will be hammered, regardless of the size of how it looks like. Speak to that.
You know that Mao has been one of the biggest critics of this government, and now is in charge of organizing these elections, and he has assured you. So I think most of his colleagues like Segona, who were with him on the other side, should now know that everything is in shape and there will be free and fair elections.
Look at how
but that doesn't mean there will be problems here and there. Because a free and fair election doesn't mean there won't be any hiccup. Some of those hiccups will be there.
When we look at Kawempe North, when we look at 2021, 2020 November, when we look at how each year, each electoral season has either brought out a militia group, has either increased in violence, what confidence do you give Ugandans with such a statement not to read it from the other side?
Okay, from each and every elections, I think there are lessons learned. Yeah. And every elections there must be a review.
But you know that
you look at what happened and how you can do it better.
Yes.
But now that the Minister of Constitutional Affairs has come out to assure Ugandans that this will be a free and fair elections, it will be a peaceful elections, I think let us believe him, because he must have learned lessons from all those incidents you have talked about. And you should know the Kawempe election, that was a by-election. Probably we shouldn't equate it to the general election. So let us pray that this election, and I would like to assure you and the viewers that the measures which were put in place as government, we want to ensure there is a free and fair elections. And that's why even we have so many presidential candidates, and they are free, even more should come, so that they can participate in an election.
So that is the guidance from the Minister for National Guidance.
Oh yes, let you be sure, Honorable Segona, that your constituency will vote peacefully. And you will be able to get your results on time.
I have no doubt.
And a fair result.
I agree. I have no doubt in the statement of the Honorable Norbert Mao, because first of all, since he joined the government, I have not read his employment contract. That he signed, Norbert Mao.
The cooperation agreement or the employment contract?
That's an employment contract. Cooperation with who?
With the NRM.
You had the legal advisor of the party saying they have never discussed it. And now, with the employment contract, including job description, you see the tongue twisting and things are changing.
Okay.
But let
you wanted to say something about the biometric lastly.
Yes. On the biometrics, I think first of all, the equipment can even work offline, and there are provisions where it can be charged using solar. So all measures have been put in place, but also it's important to note
presiding officers who do not know where to sign on a DR form.
It is also the presiding officers obviously will be trained and to train to use that equipment, but also it's important to note that it is a fundamental right for someone to do what? To vote. So I don't think as a polling station will be barred from voting. If there are any issues to do with the biometric, there will be a way how those people should vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to give each of you 1 minute of a parting shot. I'll start with Dr. Sarah, Dr. Mhumza, Honorable Segona, Honorable Dr. Ape, and lastly, the Honorable Minister.
I think going back to the topic of the day, Ugandans need hope that they can have leaders who will serve the common good of the country. Ugandans also need equal opportunities to compete freely, to excel, to be able to do business. We have seen many traders, complaining about the unfair taxes, where you import, the latest I think was a lady called Lydia, who had imported shoes, and then she was supposed to pay 70% tax. It was 70% of the value. So at what cost will she sell the shoes?
And to who?
To URA.
No, they sell to shoes.
Yeah, of course.
Because there is a place where you pass somebody selling shoes. He has even recorded Kizindaro.
Yes.
Mutwaro, 10K.
Yes. Yeah. So the kind of taxes are getting people out of the business. And I don't know whether that is the economy that we also consider among protecting gains. But also, other than the two, we need to have social harmony. Having people who die of simple diseases. At independence, the pro-independence leaders were saying the problem of Africa is poverty, ignorance, and disease. More than 6 decades of independence, we are still at the same level. So I think really leaders need to do better.
Thank you. Dr. Mhumza, over to you.
Maybe I want to use my minute to reserve to think, along with the other 8 million Ugandans who are no longer voting, so that we can think, what is the alternative way that will give us hope to identify leaders? Maybe because that's the reason.
Yeah.
They seem to have lost confidence or whatever, trust in this system. Somewhere they have their views. I wish I could find those 8 million and find out what
you could be one of them.
What are their views?
Yeah.
What are their views?
Do you
so
vote?
We think of how best do we? That's a question I can't answer here.
Thank you. Honorable Sekona.
Well, I think at the end of the day, we are not elected to be politicians. And I agree with Sarah when she says when you are elected to be a leader and to lead. First of all, you should be fair to yourself. You must have the credentials to lead. If you do not have the credentials to lead, you do not have the spine to take a leader's decision, you're worthless. Don't waste our time. Don't risk our people. Finally, we cannot fit in this country, by the way. God designed the universe in such a way that at any particular moment, the people in a particular corner of the world, if it is a country called Uganda, we can all fit there. You need to behave well. If you are General Museveni and they tell you today Mufumbiro has been abducted, the other day a small girl called Doreen Kaija, I don't even know how many kilograms, has been abducted with the whole might of the state, you must be embarrassed. We want a leader who is not immune to listening to the aspirations of the people.
Okay.
And who is not innocent of knowledge in terms of the changing world, that you must accept to be criticized. Merely that a girl was putting on a red beret. You have ministers, right from Prime Minister Nabanja, who was putting on a uniform of a private. You have Lilian Abo, and so on and so forth. They are putting on military uniform. They are not arrested. The following day, a young girl putting on a beret just because of the color, not even with the insignia of the nation of the army, is abducted, tortured. It is a shame. Finally, to our courts, you also have a role in the liberation of this country. Otherwise, that's why Ugandans want to come and liberate you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. For me, my parting shot would be that we need to acknowledge that development, be it social, political, economical, is a process. And we need to appreciate the far this country has come with all its challenges. And I think we need to take responsibilities as a country to make it better. Because all these lamentations and all that may not help much. What will help is as leaders or as a people at different levels to do everything we can at our own levels to make our country better so that all of us can live in it peacefully.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lastly, Honorable Minister.
Lastly, I think, Timothy, let us take seriously the gain which Dr. Agnes talked about, peace and security. That gain should be taken seriously and consolidated, because it is the one which has enabled children to go back to school. It is the one which has enabled investment, and you are instigating teachers to strike. It's the one which has...
because you are cheating them.
It's the one which has...
And the teachers, by the way, I'm sorry, forgive me. I'm happy when the teachers are really treated that way and they refuse to go to school, because they are the biggest number of presiding officers who help Museveni in cheating elections.
Okay. It's the one which has helped investment
What have you taken today? You're very...
domestic and foreign. It's the one which has helped a big section of the communities now to thrive. We need to really protect that gain, because we have threats also, cyber threats, we have regional instability. So let us look for a way of managing our internal conflicts, including those ones of elections, land conflicts. Let us see how to manage them so that we can protect that gain and consolidate the gain.
Thank you. Let me read just two messages. This is Anguria Charles from Bukedia. He says, Timothy, thank you for the show. Who really responds to the presidential directives? Who is at the top? He also continues and says, there is no clear guidelines for the country to be run because they keep fixing and removing things as they go on. Okay. Gentlemen and ladies, thank you very much for coming. We appreciate that you honored our invite. The production team, thank you for making today possible. For everyone that sent in a message, thank you very much for sending them in. There were so many, some we didn't read, and we apologize for that. But we'll end with this quote: may our courage exceed our level of violence in this country. Good morning.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world.
Ati kugambira bakakusaba zinga iwe nkaiwe. Milioni 5 mwana wangu akasoma. Linda ukataita bakakusaba muri mwachi linda. Chairman wa district Jan. Ona gamba mu district yao ya Kiryandongo. Sente tofuna mulimo. Ntokubota ina sente. Tokutunga sente, tokutunga mulimo. Ego. Nto inakubana milioni 5 kutunga mulimo to mwana akasoma. Ati akaija ya kurorao. Kamwikao. Bayisi bakura abantu bona basomera bana diploma bana madiguru